We want now to continue shining the spotlight on domestic violence, which we just mentioned, among women refugees and immigrants. Now, the World Health Organization estimates that 1 in 3 women worldwide has been physically or sexually abused, mostly by an intimate partner. The problem is worse for immigrant women. And as Africa 54's Hayde Adams Fitzpatrick reports, culture and economics play an important role in women's ability to break free.
When women flee war in their home countries and come to America, the violence often does not end at the border. For many, a new life in a new country makes them vulnerable to physical and emotional abuse. Amelia Masai-Ledis is a clinical social worker in Washington, D.C. She runs the Person Center, a non-profit that helps survivors of domestic violence. Masai-Ledis says women refugees and immigrants often face unique challenges.
Migration in itself is a traumatic event. So people who have witnessed trauma, survivors of vicarious trauma, or people who have sustained trauma, who have been jailed or beaten or raped or whatever has happened to them, bring that trauma with them. So once they arrive here, there are other issues that surface for them. As a family, there will be a shift in power dynamics. The woman's earning potential increases, the man's earning potential goes down, which becomes a problem for most men who have lost everything that they have had, including their socially ascribed positions within the home and the community.
We met 32-year-old Habibit at the Person Center. She and her son were brought from their native Ethiopia by her husband after he was granted asylum in the United States. Habibit asked that we protect her identity. She says her husband had always been abusive, but once they got to America, the rage and beatings became more frequent and severe.
He would introduce me to people he knew, but when I became friends with them, he didn't like that. Once he grabbed someone by the neck because they were speaking to me.
She says the turning point came when he promised to make good on a death threat.
One night while I was sleeping, I woke up to find him standing over me, staring at me. I was always afraid to fall asleep. I lived in constant fear that he would strangle me. He threatened to kill me many times. He would say that my life is in his hands and that he would finish me off one day. I could not live with all that anxiety and fear anymore, so I found the courage to take my son and leave him.
Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police receive more than 32,000 domestic violence calls every year. That's one call every 17 minutes. Callers are not asked about their immigration status, so it's not clear how many of those calls come from immigrants, although Washington does have a relatively high concentration of immigrant families. Masai-Ledis says even when police do show up at the door, a cry for help can get lost in translation.
For the longest time, the police department did not know how to intervene because a lot of the people call police, and then when police shows up, they say there is no problem, partly because the abuser is the interpreter. So there is nothing the police could do.
Habibit is working to knock down the cultural and language barriers that once kept her trapped and isolated. She's learning English so she can find a job as a cook. She plans to start a brand new life and her own catering business.
Until a woman realizes that she's ready to make that change, there is nothing, there is no help that we can offer that will make that happen. We do not make any decisions for women, because that would mean that we have taken power away from them once more. So we try to provide as much information and support and encouragement until she's ready. And when she's ready, we'll be there to walk the walk with her.
Hayde Adams Fitzpatrick, VOA News, Washington.